Welcome to Just Energy Radio with your host, naturopath and medical intuitive, Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theory that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating. From the swinging of a pendulum to the waves of the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day, each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is when we take everything in our universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita Louise on a journey through time and space where past, present, and future collide. Today, what you believe may be called into question. What we want to know is, who made up the rules? Be brave and step outside the box. We are about to turn our world upside down and venture into the unknown. Hold on. We are departing our own beliefs and entering alternative realms. Enjoy the possibilities.
Hello and welcome to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show today. Well, we were supposed to have two guests on the show, Dr. Norm Shelly talking about living bliss, and in the second hour, Shelly Wilson talking about journey into consciousness. But Dr. Norm got stuck at an airport and apparently was not having a good day. So if we can all send him a little good mojo energy that he makes it home safely, quickly, that would be great. But Shelly stepped up to the plate, and we're going to have her on for both hours, and I don't think you'll be disappointed because she and I have been chit-chatting, and we're going to have a great time. But before we bring her on the air, I just want to remind you that Just Energy Radio is brought to you by soulhealer.com, where you can find out about all the products and services I offer, including medical intuition evaluations, psychic readings, and energy healing. So if there's stuff going on in your life, problems at work, problems in your relationship, maybe you have a health concern, give me a call, drop me an email, send me a note, and we can set up a time for a private consultation in person, by phone, and even by Skype. High tech here, huh? It's also brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics, where you can jumpstart your intuition today by downloading our 50-page free Jumpstart Your Intuition Guide. Go to www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. And I'm just trying to think if I have any other announcements. No announcements today that I can think of, but if I do, I'll bring them in on the second hour. So let me tell you a little about Shelly and get her on the air. Intuitive medium, Reiki master, and spiritual teacher, Shelly Wilson would love to assist you on your spiritual journey. With respect, truth, integrity, and love, Shelly honors your free will and recognizes that you are co-creating your reality with the universe. Shelly's books, 28 Days to a New You, Connect to the You Within, and Journey into Consciousness are now available in paperback and all electronic formats. Her courses, Stop Existing and Start Living, and Opening Your Heart to Love, are available through Daily Om. Her new book, Journey into Consciousness, and her website is ShellyRWilson.com. So please welcome on to Just Energy Radio, Shelly Wilson. Hi, Shelly. How are you?
Hello, Dr. Rita. I'm so excited to join you tonight. This is going to be a fabulous conversation, I feel.
Well, I think so, too. And I think it's very exciting that we're almost neighbors. I mean, you're just in Oklahoma, and I'm in Texas, and we have a number of mutual friends. And that just, makes it be more fun and exciting.
I absolutely agree. And I always love making conscious connections because, they have the thing 6 degrees of separation and, we're all connected energetically. But the thing is when we actually make this verbal connection with someone, whether it's over the phone in the format we are now or even in person, I just love it.
It really does change the energy. I mean, I do the show and there are so many people that I've interviewed And then I've met them in person, and the bond that you have just becomes multiplied. Like our mutual friend Marie. I've had her on the show several times. I met her at a conference, and can I say love at first sight? I mean, that
of course
sounds a little
can.
weird. It sounds a little weird, but it kind of was. So it's
well, I think, as you're saying that, and spirit always gives me chills when it's truth. And I acknowledge that. And the thing is, it is that love at first sight, connection at first sight. When we tap into the beings that we are, tap in energetically, we can pick up those good vibes or what we would perceive those not so good vibes where, I'm just going to kind of observe for a while, but otherwise we just jump right in and say, let's chat. Let's have a conversation.
Oh, I just call that bad mojo. Hey, that guy over there, they got bad mojo.
Joe. And I don't want any part of it, right?
They can just keep it over there. Don't be passing it around. So, Shelly, how did you get into the whole concept of, and I'm gonna kind of give you a little label here, self-help, personal growth guru?
Yeah, well, the thing is, and I have always known stuff growing up. I was raised Baptist and my dad's a civil engineer, but I really didn't have anyone to talk to. But I was always one of those kids that was really sensitive, but I was a helper. And I liked helping with people and working with people. And even, my friends, they would always come to me for advice. And I always had in the back of my mind, I want to be a life coach. I want to do this. I want to do that. Life happens. And I began having spiritual experiences in 1999. And I, look back now and realize it really wasn't my time to wake up, so to speak. But in 2008, I had a reading with someone that then became my Reiki master. And it was that aha light bulb moment that changed everything and literally changed my life in a moment because I did have the realization of who I am, why I'm here, what I'm supposed to be doing. And then I just stepped into those shoes. I allowed myself to feel empowered rather than feeling less than, because for so much of my life I felt didn't have confidence, didn't have any self-esteem, and I just pretty much worried about what everyone thought about me. And as soon as I began letting those layers fall away and step into that power, all about empowerment, I am now confident and able to assist others on their own journey. And Cindy Green, a woman that puts on spirit fairs here in Oklahoma, she gave me the title of spiritual growth coach. And I said, I really like that title because it feels good.
Cool. What were you doing before you had this big shift in your life? I mean, did you have like a regular day job like the rest?
Yeah, regular day job. I was existing.
Not like me, but other people.
Yeah, I was a wife and mother, and the whole reason I wrote the book 28 Days to a New You is because it's about shifting your perception. And the way my life was, I just felt like I was going through the motions, that I was existing rather than living. And then I decided that it was so important to live every day as if there were no tomorrow, live in the here and now. Clear that mind clutter, clear all the regrets, the coulda, woulda, shouldas, and stop living in the future. And in doing so, that shifted my paradigm and shifted my life so that I can just feel very much at peace with who I am in this moment where I'm at.
So you said that you're married. So how did your family, how did your husband and children take to your 28 days to change? I mean, I can make some really good comment about the 28 days.
Well, the whole reason that came about was that was originally a course for the Daily Om, and it was titled Stop Existing and Start Living. And then my guide suggested that I convert it to a book because some people don't want the responsibility of a course. And so I went with 28 days because that's a month and 4 weeks and focusing on that time. And the belief is that it takes 21 days to change a habit. And all the book focuses on is shifting your perception. That's it. That's all you're changing. But getting back to your question, my family freaked. I mean, they're still freaked. And my husband even made a comment yesterday, saying, this is the new Shelly, the new Shelly. And I said, no, actually it's the now Shelly, because I'm in the now. I'm not living in the past. I'm in the now.
Okay. See, I've never had that experience because I've been doing this for so long that they have to love me or not.
That's it, right?
Because this is what I do, and I'm not going to stop what I do for a relationship.
Right. Well,
so, it's just interesting, that your transformation, I don't want to say came so late. I mean, because it's great that it came.
Did. Yeah, it came in 2008 when I was 37 years old. And I think a lot of it I look back and reflect that the experiences that I had growing up and everything else health related and things like that, it was part of the experience in order to prepare me to be the person that I am today so that I can have the empathy and help others on their journey.
Well, and I think, I agree with that comment, even in the broader picture, is that it seems like people that work in the, personal growth area or ones that are successful in the field are individuals who have experienced a lot of challenges in their life, regardless of what they are, because it makes you grow on the inside so much and can offer layers and layers of advice.
Exactly. I completely agree. And, I definitely acknowledge that I'm a medium, that I'm a psychic. I don't really care for the connotation associated with the word psychic, so I prefer to say that I'm intuitive. But I definitely recognize that I'm not the norm, shall I say, that I incorporate everything. But my main thing is to assist others on their journey and to empower them to understand that they have all of this information within themselves. They simply have to tap into it and to trust it.
But that's really important.
It is.
All right, hang on one second. They're already starting to ask questions in the chat room.
Awesome.
But I just put in, I said she's open to questions, but not readings. So,
yes.
Because you know how that, well, I don't know how many radio shows that you've done, but, it's you get the, well, what does she say about me? It's like, no, we're not going there. Anyway, so this is from Bill in New York, and his question is, what are her thoughts on the metaphysical connection to our souls existing on higher frequencies and being in eternal life energy essence?
Wow. That whole thought is a little mind-blowing when we start looking at it on a human level. But when we allow ourselves to see our experiences, our life from that higher soul perspective, I definitely recognize that, my belief is that more than likely we're operating on other dimensions at the same time, with the astral planes and the traveling and things like that. But I really don't delve into that a whole lot because I'm focused on, what is happening to me as a spiritual being having a human life experience in this moment. But at the same sense, I am definitely open to all experiences. So rather than limiting or restricting or assigning or labeling or anything like that, I consciously choose to be just an allowance of discovery and coming into my awareness and everything. So definitely it's possible. For sure. And I think the more that we just expand ourselves and allow ourselves to have these experiences, the more that we're going to feel alive.
And I'm just going to kind of read your mind here a second. I'm going to make the assumption that you do believe that there are multiple planes of existence and, blah, 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 and that we're energy beings. I mean, and that's not where your comment is coming from. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because we can think about the third dimension, dense earth plane, and then focus on the fourth dimension, which is the other side, and the fifth dimension, what we're shifting to. But to me, there's still more than that. Absolutely. And because everything is energy, I completely believe that there are multiple of us having multiple existence at the same time.
See, that whole thing just kind of boggles my mind.
It is. That's why it says it's mind
and
blowing.
that's like Larry said with the parallel universes. It's like,
Yeah.
I just can't even wrap my mind. I mean, I kind of can, but not that much.
And I think we don't have to. Yeah, I think that if we get in our head and try to analyze it, it'll make us crazy. But if we just say, there's the possibility, absolutely. And if I am, great. But if I try to live in each of those dimensions in my head as who I am in this moment, it is mind blowing.
But, I think there are people that are geared mentally and emotionally to contemplate those levels of existence as part of their psyche. And then there are other people, I mean, I know for myself, I deal with what's going on and people are like, but maybe it came from a past life or whatever. And I'm like, well, maybe, but we got plenty to deal with in this lifetime. So we're just going to focus here.
I think that's great advice, Dr. Rita, because, past lives do come up, but if we're focused on, what was happening then, to me, that's still the past. But if there's something affecting us now that we want to dive into and see if it's, pertaining to a past life, then we can look into that. But otherwise, acknowledge it, understand that you have had multiple lifetimes if you do believe in reincarnation, but otherwise, I say just let it go.
Well, I mean, I think there are a lot of people that like to blame, or point the finger at past life stuff and don't really want to take the responsibility in this lifetime. It's like,
I agree.
Well, maybe it's a past life thing. It's like, well, you're showing me this thing started when you were like 8. So if you're showing me it started at 8, now there could have been some residual past life stuff, but we need to deal with 8. And then we can go from there.
I agree. Yeah, and that's what I think too. I made a post on Facebook the other day because so many people look at their lives in this lifetime and they, wonder why they're having the challenges or the health concerns or anything like that they're having. And I said, let's just pull ourselves out of our human mind and see it from that higher soul perspective. And if we do believe in reincarnation, then choose that your soul made the conscious choice to come into this body as you, to have these experiences, chose your parents, chose your triumphs, chose your challenges. And let's just take responsibility on a soul level rather than blaming someone or life or God or whoever you have an affinity for, and just, put it and understand that it's part of your soul life, your soul plan.
I just always wonder when I think of that concept, what the heck I was thinking.
I do too. I've had that many thoughts because I thought, why did I pick my parents? Why did I do this? And then I just, consciously recognize, okay, on a soul level, I chose it. But on a human level, what was I thinking?
Yeah. And I wish I could, have the moment now, but be on the other side to know all the answers that I would know. Do you ever think that? I mean, I think that.
I do. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like I don't want to be dead to have all the answers. Dang it.
Yeah, because we know everything before we incarnate again. We know it all. And then that's part of why we're here, because we're remembering what we forgot. And the more that we can tap into that knowingness, connecting to the you within, our higher self, our angels, guides, listening, we may not remember it all, but we are going to remember. And to me, that's what that deja vu is, even. Acknowledgement that we're having the experiences we're having in the moment we're intended to have them.
Okay, so this is it's not totally off topic, but it's something I've been talking about on the air. And we were talking about it before, but I have been giving updates on air, but I moved into this new house. And actually, everybody that's listening, I will post some pictures of the destruction zone on the webpage, the Just Energy Radio webpage. I finally got my computers here so I can do work. But I will post some pictures. And so as we're doing stuff, I can keep you like the little, weekly update, like, ooh, I got a kitchen sink. Anyway, but it was weird because this is just even so embarrassing to tell this story. But we had dinner and I have this little bucket and and I'm carrying the bucket up the stairs to get to the tub so I can wash some dishes. And I'm like, you've done this before. And I'm going, wow, I wonder if you because had a lifetime in this house.
Uh-huh.
That's why I'm just so attracted to it.
Yes, I'd say it's very probable.
You
Or
know,
if not that house exactly, one very similar to it.
yeah, weird. Anyway, that was tonight. That was really cool.
Yeah.
But all right, going back on topic. We're talking about things that happened in our past, and is it a good idea to understand the journey we've been on throughout our lives?
Well, I don't know that we necessarily have to understand it, but I think it's important to at least acknowledge it. Because when we began analyzing the pieces, the how and why, what, where aspects of it, that can really get heavy, and we can start, almost like a snowball effect where we're picking it apart. But if we can just simply acknowledge that these experiences that I've had or are having or will have are part of my life experience, the good and the bad and the ugly, that's all about perception, then it's going to allow us to shift the energy surrounding those experiences and just to where we have that understanding that it is part of our life experience.
But I think a lot of people, when they look at those things and they, I don't want to say invalidate themselves, but trying to think of what the word is. They just get really stuck with them. They can't move past the challenge of what has happened.
Right.
For example, you lose a spouse, and you're like 25 or whatever. And, for the next 30 years, you're grieving about it because you can't move past it.
Right. Right. And one of the experiences I had just a few weeks ago Through the Veil, I was a speaker there, and I did a presentation, and in it I also did messages, and it was apparent that one woman was going through chemotherapy treatment, and her question to me was, am I going to get through this? And I immediately, because I'm very clairsentient, I immediately tapped into that energy, and what came to me is only if you believe. And so I began delivering her a message, but then I said, and I feel, and this is really challenging for me to even say this to you, and I know it will be equally hard for you to receive it. I said, but if you can allow yourself, going back to what we were talking about, Dr. Rita, to acknowledge this experience as part of an intended experience for your lifetime, as hard as it may be, the more that you can acknowledge it, the more you're going to shift the energy rather than thinking this is something being done to you or you're being punished or you've done something bad to deserve it. So acknowledge it, and it doesn't mean you have to like it, but acknowledge that it's part of this experience. And in turn, to me, you're going to shift the energy around it so that you can move through it and allow the healing to happen. And sometimes the healing is just the understanding of this as part of my life experience. It doesn't mean that necessarily they will be healed or that they will recover, because sometimes part of that life purpose is that is part of their transition. But a lot of it is the energy associated with the experiences themselves.
I can't agree more. I mean, and the same thing happens with people that have had something happen where, they might have some kind of a disability, not
right
with a disability, but have a car accident and are unable to function in the same way they had.
Right.
And it's very challenging for them to own, this is where I am today, and where do I go from here?
Exactly. And, there's a grieving process, of course, that occurs with that situation. And, the thing is so many people say, get over it. You need to be happy. You need to focus on the positive. But I firmly believe you've got to allow yourself to be in that energy, to be immersed in it, feel the anger, the frustration, the pain, everything else that you're feeling so that you can move through the energy. So rather than keeping it tucked inside, to me, you've got to feel it. And sometimes you got to waller in it and you got to stay there for a while, but you will come through it if you choose to. A lot of what I focus on too, Dr. Rita, is word modification, because words are energy. And our thoughts are energy, actions are energy. So being mindful of our word choices is extremely important. I hear so many people say, I'm struggling, I'm trying, really focusing on that energy. And to me, that energy invokes a lower vibration. Now, to me, a challenge is, the same energy, but it's a different vibration. So I encourage people to, rather than say I'm struggling, say I'm being faced with challenges. And another thing is, rather than saying I'm fearful or cautious, to switch that energy to being one of awareness and say I'm mindful.
That's great. So I heard this years ago, and I'll share it with you because it came into my head, so I'm guessing I'm supposed to share it with you. And this is from a Kabbalistic tradition that, based on the tree of life, that words are actually the manifestation of an idea. Mm-hmm. So yes. It's not manifestation into the physical, but it's manifestation into the physical world. And it's like, ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the more, that people become aware of their thoughts, because they think that if they think one way and say another, that all that really counts is the words. But in reality, they're both streams of consciousness. They're both energy. And so being very conscious of your thoughts that you're emitting, and as often as you can to have no thoughts, to just clear that mind clutter out, because that'd be like a radio signal that was constantly beaming something, and, being aware of what that signal is, that to me is very important in determining and creating the reality that you do desire.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, when someone has these negative experiences or challenging experiences, are there opportunities for them to learn and grow?
Yes.
Self, and that whole thing?
I believe every experience is an opportunity for us to learn and grow. Every individual we encounter, every conversation, everything. And the more that we can allow ourselves to have that experience to learn and grow. And, many times, especially with relationships, people come into our lives and they may be there for a while or longer or shorter or whatever it may be. But to me, anytime those relationships come to an end, I feel that, first of all, communicating what you're feeling as often as you can, because sometimes, the door just gets slammed in your face, figuratively and sometimes literally speaking, and you don't really have that closure. But allowing yourself, to feel all those emotions, but not necessarily take it personally, and recognizing, that it is a learning experience for everyone. But then pulling out and allowing yourself to see the blessings that relationship brought you, or that the challenge you were experiencing brought you, that's where you can see what the lessons were within that experience or relationship.
Well, and it also makes it easier to, I'm going to say, let the relationship go. In that situation, mm-hmm. It's like,
yes,
we were done.
Yeah,
okay.
We're done. Exactly. And, I noticed even a lot of relationships I've had with friends and colleagues over the past year or so, I see a pattern in them. And so what I'm seeing too, and, this can be also in experiences or things like that. But the first thing is, if you can acknowledge that you see the pattern, that's the first step. And then the second step is, okay, so how am I going to respond now during this time, during this situation that I did before? And a lot of it to me just involves you having the courage to speak your truth. And, if the relationship is coming to an end, rather than just, not ever talking to the person again, just say, is there anything that you want to share with me, or, anything that you're witnessing or whatever. And I think that it's important to allow yourself that opportunity to listen rather than getting your feathers ruffled if you're opening the door and inviting that conversation in, so that they can speak their truth, so that you can hear what you need to hear as well.
I mean, I find having those kind of conversations and just being in the place of ultimate neutrality, or as
mm-hmm.
ultimate
yes.
neutrality as possible.
Yes.
creates some wonderful dialogue.
It does. And I think, we look at neutrality, but another word I'd like to incorporate is detachment. Just being detached from it, where you can observe it, allow it, receive the information, but you're not letting your emotions, you're not succumbing to the emotions of the hurt or the pain or the frustration in that moment. But if you're feeling those emotions, by all means, feel them. Let them come up once again, because feeling everything that you're feeling to me is really important.
So a little bit ago, we were talking about, kind of what we were talking about, how we make all our choices before we incarnate. And so it was a comment from Analog Hole, but I thought it was a good comment, and I would like to share it and get your comment on it.
Okay.
Can thinking like this make a person complacent? By thinking your path in life is already set forth by a soul, could it result in a person becoming stagnant and unwilling to change?
I believe, I believe that it can go both ways, most definitely. So it's all about your choice, how you want to perceive the experiences. And in the same sense, I just feel it's important to have that balance. So there's people that detach and check out completely and they're existing. And then there's people that are existing because they have no passion. So to me, it's important to, relatively speaking, to incorporate everything, but not feel like you don't have control over your life, because in each and every moment we're making choices, and it can be as simple as deciding what you want to eat for dinner and things like that. And in the same sense, trusting that you're where you're supposed to be. But this is part of that human life experience, to incorporate the pleasure as well as what we would perceive to be the pain at times.
Different question. I fully believe in free will. And I believe that we can choose to listen to spirit, and we can choose not to. And we choose not to, we get the cosmic 2x4.
Yeah, exactly.
Spirit
has this great way, huh?
To keep us on path. And so could it be, and this is just, I get these little weird light bulb things. Could it be that when we are not going with the program we set up for ourselves, it's those moments that we're not listening and not following along?
I would agree. I would absolutely. And Spirit gave me chills with that. So I would say that is truth, Dr. Rita. Absolutely.
They just say stuff. Your guys are talking to my guys. They're not cracking jokes. I've had guests come on, and I'm like laughing through half the show because my guides and their guys are like cracking jokes the entire time. And I'm like, really? Really? And then they just keep yapping, and it's like, God. So they're being good tonight.
They're saying these women have a lot to talk about. This is some good stuff.
Well, the jokes are pretty funny, but anyway. So this was a question from Redshift, and I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. If good energy is disrupted by negative/bad energy, where do you think the source of this unwanted energy comes from? Is it satanic in origin, as a Christian would believe, or something else?
Well, I believe there's definitely light and there's dark, and I believe that there's higher vibration energy and lower vibration energy. I feel it's a matter of a person's perception in regards to how they would perceive it or what it is. But I'm one of those people that recognize that everything's vibration, everything's energy. And as far as the good and bad, positive, negative, light and dark, that kind of thing, I think, once again, I just have to go with our individual perception of how we would perceive that. Because, I have a lot of people that their preferences may not necessarily be working with the archangelic realm or anything like that, but that doesn't mean it's better or worse. That just means that's simply their preference. But for me, as far as things that I would personally perceive and experiences, tapping into individuals or things like that, I would have to acknowledge and assess that, yes, there's definitely different vibrations and things that I would say, feel good, or as you indicated about the mojo. So, yeah.
All right, we have another question from Bill in New York, but I have to ask you this because in your book you talk about going to some of Dolores Cannon's conferences. So we've been talking about, connecting with source, connecting with our guides, et cetera, et cetera. So who do you think the guides are? I mean, there are these, it really becomes like this fine line to me, like, are they higher spiritual beings or are they just extraterrestrials? And we're just covering up the fact that they're extraterrestrials.
I think they can be all of it. I mean, my belief has always been that there are aliens, there are ETs, because if we as a human race on Earth were so powerful to think that we would be the only existence in the universe, then that's pretty mighty, I think. So I've always believed in, other beings than the humans. And I definitely think that our guides can be from Arcturians or the Pleiadians or any of the other galaxies. But I also feel like, each individual person, depending on, their beliefs or frame of reference, and that's where the guides are kind of come in. And I believe, we have guides, but we can get new guides depending on how we change and grow and evolve, that we can ask for ones to come in or some just step in. And so I don't feel, my belief is, we do have a guardian angel that came in from the time we were born that stays with us till the time that we cease to breathe. We have the availability of the Ascended Masters, the Archangelic realm, and then we also have our guides that are there to work with us. Some people want to choose to get to know them, but I feel whether we have a relationship, as I would say, an intimate conversationalist relationship with them, or we simply recognize that this higher self, this higher beings, these ones that have lived before, or even, perhaps are living now as in the universe, that they're providing us with that insight and knowledge.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's whatever to me each person's belief system is, just like there's so many names for the term of consciousness, of God, of source energy. Looking at all the different religions, there's different names, but in essence, they're all describing the same being, the same consciousness.
Well, and we can just only hope that any guides or whatever that we're communicating with are, from a higher level, and we're not hooked up with one of them bad mojo guys.
Well, I'd have to say, Dr. Rita, that some of those people that may be having experiences in life that we on a human level would deem to be unsavory, perhaps their guides may be a lower vibration. And that's part of them having that experience that they're having. But I feel like, as long as our intention is one of goodness and light and everything like that, I feel like that we could trust the information coming through is from a higher consciousness of love, of light, and that we don't have to go into fear mode in regards to how that information is coming through.
Cool. Okay, so let me get to Bill's question. And so, all right, he is not talking about himself. I'm just going to preface it with that. Okay. I said no reading, so this isn't about Bill. Actually, I don't know, but I'm going to. Anyway, what advice would you give to someone who is down and out in life, living in a stressful environment, to change their perceptions on life and connect with their spirituality?
Well, the first thing is really allowing yourself to bring your energy to the here and now, in the present moment, consciously living in the present moment rather than dwelling in the past, having the regrets, the shame, the guilt, the coulda, woulda, shoulda. I mean, have those feelings, experience what you're feeling, but move out of that living in the past back to the present moment. Stop living in the future. Now, we as humans have commitments and calendars that we schedule and fun things and things that we look forward to. But if our energy is in the future and all we can wait on is that vacation that's in December, then we're not really living in the here and now. And in the same sense, we can apply that if there's something coming up that we're really dreading and we're already living there and it hasn't even happened yet. we're still living in the future. So I think bringing that energy back to the present moment, first of all, is extremely important, would be the first step. And then, really allow yourself to look at your life, to do that mini life review and to see, okay, what is it that I'm putting out energetically? What is it with my thoughts, my words, my actions? What am I creating? What is the intention behind why I do what I do? Am I coming from a place of love and trust from that heart space? Or am I constantly fearful and worried and doubting and everything else, which is that lower vibration that's in that root chakra? So one isn't good or bad, but being aware of where you're functioning from, in essence, love or fear, is going to help you to create that reality that you desire. And so to me, sometimes it's easier to say than do it, but just allowing yourself that opportunity to communicate what you're feeling, to honor those emotions, to be in the moment, you're going to already begin shifting the energy around those experiences, not taking things personally when what it wasn't me, or it's just a projection on me from what this other person or this experience. But to me, a lot of people live with the feeling of playing small. I mean, for lack of a better word, they just keep their light dimmed because they don't want to step on toes. They don't want to shine too bright. They don't want to make people uncomfortable. So they just keep themselves very small and very closed down. And I think the more that each one of us feel empowered, feel confident, have the courage to speak our truth, the more it's going to have that ripple effect, and everyone's going to begin feeling better.
One of the things that I kind of latched onto in his comment was the unfriendly environment, stressful environment.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say that, because to me, if you're in a stressful environment, my first goal would be, well, what can I do to get out of that environment?
Right.
So let's just make the assumption that this is an environment that you can't readily change.
Right.
Let's just take that. What can they do to shift that energy? I know that I've been in environments like that, and when I think about it, it's like, well, wait a minute, I need to change me. I need to come from a place of love. I need to put the energy of love into this situation, into this relationship, into what's going on in whatever task that I'm doing. And I have found that the energy of everybody around me shifts.
It does. You're right on target with that. And that's what you change. You change your perception. Because if you're in a stressful environment, whether it's a home environment or a work environment, how you perceive that situation is how it's going to continue. But if you pull back energetically, and I say stick yourself up in the corner of the room, observe the experience as a soul from that soul perspective, you're going to shift it already. And what you're shifting is, once again, how you view it. And in turn, it will have that ripple effect. People have so many preconceived notions, expectations, and I'm just going to use this as an example, but they're working at a place they really don't care for. The only reason they're there is for the paycheck. And it's all they could do to get up every morning, to go to work, to come home. They're exhausted. They're fatigued. It's taking a toll on themselves physically, mentally, emotionally speaking, having an effect on their relationships and everything else. And so you have to say, is it really worth the money that they're making? But if they allow themselves to have that experience during the day, to end it when they leave work, to get up the next morning, to start fresh, and to not have the dread or the anger or the frustration or everything going into the day. Yes, there may be experiences throughout the day that causes you to feel those emotions, but if you're already feeling them before you even get to that place of work, you're already setting the tone for how the day's going to unfold, and of course that's how it will unfold.
And I just want to add a little commentary to what you just said, because I love what you said. And if you do these things, and within the next 2 to 3 days, the same day, next 2 to 3 days, whoever you're projecting the love at or whatever at, if they turn around and come bash you or do something really mean to you or whatever, it means you are doing your job and you have shifted the energy and now they are responding to the shift. And usually it comes out if it's a negative environment in a negative way. And if that ever happens to you, I want you to know that you heard it here live on Just Energy Radio and have a smile on your face and go, Dr. Rita told me that was going to happen.
It was. Yeah, you're exactly right. And you know, that's the thing, because most of the people around us, their immediate reaction to change when it's uncomfortable is they lash out in anger and frustration, and they're going to lash out at the person that they perceive as causing it. And in essence, you're not causing it. You're simply the effect of feeling good, of changing that vibration. And so they, in turn, it's uncomfortable for them.
It's actually pretty funny, you know, because I give that advice to a lot of clients, especially if I do a lot of energy work on a relationship or a workspace, and I give them the warning, and inevitably I get the phone call. You were right. I'm like, did you laugh? And they were like, I did. And you don't take it personal. Yeah. You totally don't take it personal. It's like, ha, 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 I knew you were going to be a jerk.
Yeah. I saw it coming. It was inevitable.
So, cool. Okay, let's see. You know, we're talking about love and making all these changes, but it seems like for most people, it's really hard for us to love ourselves.
You're right. You are right. And, you know, I think it stems back to conditioning, growing up, whether it was from our parents or society or culture or whatever it may be. But it's been instilled in a lot of people that if you love yourself, if you do things for yourself, you're selfish. And that's the old paradigm way of thinking. The new paradigm is self-love. And the more that you love yourself and really focus that energy there and put yourself first, you're going to have more love for those around you, and it's just going to have that ripple effect. But it's very important that we get out of that mode of it's selfish.
But is there a line that people can cross in being self-loving and where it becomes destructive?
Well, of course it can, because if people's intention is one of selfish, yes, it can definitely be there. And this goes back to what is the intention behind it? Because some people are just cruel, and you know, the observation is, from one's perception is, oh, they do only care about themselves. So I think, you know, I don't want to say there's a fine line there, but there's a nice thick line, that is definitely apparent. And I think it's just starts with what is the intention behind this loving action. And the more that we allow ourselves to receive, because most people tend to be givers. There's a lot of takers, of course, but most people that are givers, very often they are not a receiver. And it's not because they don't want to receive, it's because no one is reciprocating back to them.
But sometimes they just suck at it.
That's true. Absolutely true. That is true.
Sorry,
you know,
I tell that to my clients. It's like,
yeah. And the thing is, you know, I look at people in life, and I love everyone. I don't like everyone, but I love everyone. But the thing is in my eyes, if I could just clone myself or clone certain people or certain things like that, and you know, but in the same sense, if we were all the same and had the same traits and personality and things like that, then you know, what part of the life experience would we be learning there as well?
You know, it makes you wonder, you know, what the life experience is or what the learning is of people that are, you know, really mean or really cruel or very selfish, you know, that tend to be on that other side. Because, I mean, now karmically, I think there's a lot, but you know what the life lesson is in the current life for those people. Have you ever thought about that concept?
Oh yeah, and you know we can dive in even deeper with that with people that actually cause harm to others in addition to verbal, and you know this is where we just have to not even try to analyze it because, each person does have a soul path, a soul journey, a life experience that is intended for them. And the more that we get out of trying to figure out what theirs may be and just simply recognize that is part of their process. So I feel like, it's even, detaching once again. It doesn't mean we have to like what they're doing or that soul experience, but we have to trust that it is part of their path.
I mean, I just find that whole concept, fascinating. Having people that can be intentionally, cruel, or they do things from an intentional place. I mean, that's a negative intentional place. It's just so hard for me to even wrap my mind around what that would feel like to do.
Right. And I think too, I just have to say that a lot of people, that are in that situation may not be functioning with their sixth sense. Sonia Choquette has, an equation or a percentage that she arrived at that about 22% of everyone of the population actually functions on their six senses, and everyone else is still operating on their five senses. And, to me, a lot more people are waking up, but in the same sense, I even wonder if those people are even operating on all five, or perhaps they're just operating on a couple.
You mean the ones that have the bad mojo?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I don't know. I think that there are some that are very awake and are operating on 6 or 7 senses and just use it in a very negative way.
I agree. Yeah. And once again, the negative is based on our perception. I get into conversations a lot with people because they say, well, who do they think these people are and their reality? And, they're just lying and they're deceptive and this and that. And I said, well, from their perception, this may be their truth. I said, but from our perception, it's not truth. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I'm just saying, it's our perception that they're lying, but their perception may be that it is truth. So I think acknowledging it, but not getting sucked into that energetic vortex is a good idea.
I mean, I was watching, it was on CNN the other day, and they were talking about gay marriage. And these two lawyers who apparently have fought each other tooth and nail in other cases teamed up to tackle because one's a conservative and one's a liberal or something like that, the whole gay marriage concept. And they were bringing up the point about interracial marriages, and interracial couples. And if you think about it, 40 years ago, there were laws against that.
Yeah.
50 years ago. And our perception of that has changed dramatically.
Right.
I
mean, there's still people, of course, that think it's a blasphemy and among other words. But, the thing is times are different. People are changing, and the more that, we could go on and on, all kinds of topics about people's viewpoints and things. But I think the main thing to understand and acknowledge is everyone is having their own experience, and what may feel right to someone may not feel right to someone else, but that it doesn't mean that it's good or bad or indifferent.
Okay, so we're getting close to break, but I'm going to ask this question from Sky33. And she wants to know, does Shelly believe in an old soul? Many people can see a baby and just know that the baby is an old soul.
Yeah, I definitely, because when you look into the eyes, because eyes are the window to the soul, which to me, you can definitely feel, know, understand, and then when that baby begins able to speak, and much of the words and wisdom, they can be just a few years old, and you can be amazed at some of the information coming out of their mouth. So absolutely, I do believe that. And what I really love is those stories. And typically it's around 4 years old that I've noticed a lot of stories that I read where they're having that awareness and that remembrance of past lives.
There has been actually not as much chatter as there was about indigo children and crystal children. Could they be confusing an old soul with this new energy vibration that people say is coming through in children?
Yeah. I mean, I think the main thing is, we as humans want to label, whether it be the indigo, the rainbow, the crystal, old souls, whatever it may be. We want to give a label to something that is different. And, we can do that. That's fine. But I also feel like labels are limiting. And so the more that we can just see and recognize, okay, something about this person's very special, very unique. And each one of us are unique, of course. But if we just want to acknowledge that you are feeling something different, then I think that's all that really matters.
Sorry, you're very popular. You have all kinds of questions in the chat room.
That's good.
Usually I'll get a few, but they're just like blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay.
They want to know my thoughts. And I definitely want to acknowledge this is my perception. That's why I use that word a lot, because, I recognize that not everyone's going to have the same thought process as me. But this is my perception, my beliefs.
That's right. And so do not hold me, hostage for her thoughts and perceptions. They are not the voice of the station, or whatever that warning is.
Yes, exactly.
I'm just looking at the time. Okay, we have a couple of minutes, so let me throw this one at you quickly. Do you think that mainstream media and other outlets are indirectly affecting our consciousness with all the negative stories they cover?
Well, I'm getting chills. So I have to say, even though that it's negative, it's still coverage. Unfortunate. I wish it was all positive, or what we would perceive to be positive. But I feel like, first of all, the collective consciousness, and I'm immediately going back to this interview I had with James Van Praagh a few months ago, because he was talking about herbal tea. First it came into the mainstream, and then yoga came into the mainstream, and crystals, and then here is mediumship, and people are just becoming more familiar with it. And so, with the reality TV and all these shows that are on now, some we may like, or some we may think really corny, and some we don't care for at all. But in regards, it's still bringing an awareness that people may not have been familiar with before. And so with anything, it makes people curious. So they want to check it out. And I'm all about, practicing discernment. If it feels right to you, check into it some more, learn, and allow yourself to grow. And if it doesn't feel right, then just discard it, because it's not resonating with you. It's not in your resonance. So that doesn't mean that you have to accept it for yourself.
I mean, being, from Oklahoma, and I'm in Texas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we know.
20 years ago or 30 years ago, if you said you did ghost hunting, they would look at you, like you're some satanic person or whatever.
Right.
And now you can
cool.
say, oh, well, yeah, I do ghost hunting. Like I mentioned that at this one little shop where I'm now living. And they said, oh, they do this conference in Jefferson every year, a ghost hunting thing. And
you're like, I'm a part of it.
And it's like, yeah, I've spoken at it for the last 8 years.
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't that they give you the dirty look. What do you mean ghost hunting? It has become relatively acceptable. Not that they would necessarily participate.
Right. Right.
But you can mention it and you're not going to burn in hell. Maybe lightly toasted, as my sister said, but not burning full bore.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do live in a very rural community, and I'm not saying that I'm in the closet by any means, but most of my clients are, worldwide versus my next door. And I do spirit fairs in Oklahoma City and Tulsa and Kansas City, and I do different conferences across the United States. But as far as in my backyard, most of the people in my community here, first of all, I don't really socialize with them, but secondly, they have no idea what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I mean, I'm part of a benefit fundraiser tomorrow night in Tulsa, and all of the proceeds are going to different animal rescues. And I have one in my area, and so I, contacted him a month ago and said, I'm designating you as a beneficiary for my proceeds. Are you cool with that?
Shelly,
this is who I am.
Just told that the music is coming up, so I'm probably talking over myself. So I'm Dr. Rita Louise. We're here talking to Shelly Wilson, and we will be back after these words from our sponsors.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.
You're listening to IRN, the Inception Radio Network, Chicago, Illinois.
Are you looking for a cure for boredom? Never worry. IRN's new interactive website introduces a number of ways to pass time while you listen to your favorite show. Choose anything from the IRN Chat Lounge, the Game Lounge, Video Lounge, or the Mood Lounge. These fun, exciting features let you chat in real time with fellow listeners, view live skywatches, play daily posted online games, or pick a show based on topic. The choices are endless. Use your time wisely, keeping it all on IRN.
Who were the gods of antiquity? They've been described as the forces of nature, levels of consciousness, and aspects of our psyche. Stories that depict their incredible weapons, their flying machines, and their amazing adventures are characterized as being the product of our ancestors' fanciful imaginations. But what if the tales of the gods are true? Did the writers, chroniclers, and scribes of our distant past actually document a realistic view of our origin? My latest book, Man-Made, The Chronicles of Our Extraterrestrial Gods, looks at our most ancient legends. Learn of the torrid romances, elaborate plots, violent scandals, and conspiracies that played out in antiquity. Find out the role the gods played in the life and culture we have today. If you want to find out the truth of who we are and where we come from, order your copy of Man-Made today. For more information, go to www.manmadethechronicles.com. That's www.manmadethechronicles.com.
Hello, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Remember, you can take your Inception Radio shows on the go. Just download the Inception Radio Network app for your iPhone, iPad, or Android smartphones and access live shows, past shows, guest lineups, and much more. Just visit the iTunes Store or the Google Play Marketplace and download it today for free.
Move past the crossroads in your life and discover alternative solutions to your deepest concerns at soulhealer.com. So whether it's a physical problem, an emotional issue, a question about work, or troubles in your relationships, naturopath and medical intuitive Dr. Rita Louise can help you. Bring peace, harmony, and health back into your life. Schedule a session today. Visit soulhealer.com right away and live the life you've been dreaming of.
You didn't forget what's coming up tonight, did you? Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Never miss that interview you were looking forward to or the show on your favorite topic. Follow IRN on Twitter, I_R_N, and get reminders about the evening's live shows as well as fun and important updates throughout the week. That's I_R_N, and never miss a great show again.
We only have a couple of seconds before we have to get back to the show, and I want to tell you how you can jumpstart your intuition today. Using my free 50-page introductory guide filled with simple, revolutionary, and proven techniques, you can ignite your intuition and tap into your inner wisdom, all from the comfort of your own home. The Institute of Applied Energetics is the leader in online home study instruction for those interested in becoming a certified medical intuitive, intuitive counselor, or energy medicine practitioner. Now is the time to transform your life and take it to a completely new level. Discover who you are and how you work. Open the door to the world of intuition, health, and healing. You can jumpstart your intuition right away by going to www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com and downloading our free guide. Get the opportunity of a lifetime and live the life you deserve. Download your free Jumpstart Your Intuition guide today at www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com and begin living a life filled with passion and purpose.
Don't have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
Go deep inside yourself and venture into the realm of the unconscious mind with my Meditating on the Kabbalah guided imagery audio CDs. Discover who you are and what you want in life. Meditating on the Kabbalah can help you to open, clear, and revitalize the energetic pathways of your subtle being. They will support you in your spiritual quest by helping you to access the profound insights and inner guidance you need as you work in alignment with your highest good. Let them help you to release negative thoughts and emotions and clear away any limitations that may be keeping you from experiencing your full potential. Walk down the path to health, healing, understanding, and enlightenment with Meditating on the Kabbalah. Order your copy today at www.soulhealer.com. That's right, that's www.soulhealer.com.
Hello, Inception Radio Network. Would you like your favorite show to be played again live on air? Well, now the choice is in your hands with IRN's live request portal, an easy way to request your favorite show with a simple click. IRN's live request portal now gives you exclusive access to all of the shows. How easy is it? Simply type a show name or a guest name, click request, even write a dedication message, and that's it. Try it now. Simply visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com, click on the live request tab under the show menu. Now playing your favorite show is just a mouse click away.
And now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for staying tuned to the second hour of the show. The second hour of the show is brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com, where you can learn to become a medical intuitive counselor, or energy medicine practitioner, all from the comfort of your own home. So wherever you are in the world today, you can study this training and become certified. And your first step is to go by the Institute of Applied Energetics webpage. That's www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com, and download our free 50-page guide to help you jumpstart your intuition today. So don't forget, www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. It's also brought to you by soulhealer.com. And that's it. Let me get Shelly back on the air. We're talking about her book, Journey into Consciousness. Her webpage is shellyrwilson.com. So, Shelly, you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So one of the things that you talk about in your book are about people who have ideas or start projects but don't ever complete them.
Yes.
I see it a lot. What benefit is there to starting projects and then the whole sentence and putting the period at the end and finishing it? Why is finishing it so important?
Well, what I feel with that, first of all, I just have to acknowledge one of my pet peeves is people who say they're going to do something and they don't. And I've had to learn to get over that and be in that flow of allowance that everyone's having the experience they're intended to have. But if it affects me personally, I'm supposed to communicate it to that person. But in regards to, people starting projects or things and like that, I think that first of all, if you put that intention out there and you choose to do it, but then something happens along the way and it doesn't resonate with you anymore, then I feel like it's okay to discard it, to just say, that's fine. But for me personally, one of my biggest things was I had gone to college, got my associate's degree and graduated in 1990, but I'd always had that feeling of I didn't finish and, it just didn't feel good. And I always had that longing to go back. So I did nearly, I went back 18 years later, but I graduated 20 years later, same school, same everything, to where I got the associates and got my bachelor's degree. The community college had then became a university in that 20-year time span. But it was 2 weeks before my son graduated from high school. So it was really important. So what I feel with that is, finishing what you started if it feels right to you, but in the same sense, you don't want to have those regrets, those coulda, woulda, shoulda, buttas. And, to me, that's all part of living your life fully, because people put off till tomorrow, and sometimes tomorrow never comes.
And that's bad. But
yeah,
here's my real question. When do you say enough is enough? How can you recognize that you have gone down that road and now you're just banging your head against a wall that isn't ever going to move?
Mm-hmm. Well, you just have to decide it for yourself in that moment, and just be aware in how you feel and tap in to those emotions of feelings. I mean, because I thought I wanted to go on and get my MBA. I was already on a roll. And then I was like, screw this. There is no way I can do this to myself, because I'm very much a perfectionist and thought that I had to keep the 4.0, and it caused me much strife and grief and everything else. And I was like, no, this is enough. I've accomplished what I set out to do. I don't need to go that extra mile. But I think for each person, they're the ones that have to decide for themselves to gain that clarity and decide, okay, this is enough. I've had enough. And maybe this is even in regards to making a life change or changing relationship status. I'm thinking of Facebook, and how people feel the need to put it out there, that they're in a relationship with someone or divorced or single or whatever. I mean, I have no status, and people that know me, know my status, but I think it's obviously a matter of personal preference.
Mine changes regularly, but
and that's absolutely your choice too. And I think that's what's important for everyone, is to feel good about the choices that you make.
And I think that's really important. There are so many people that do live in that shoulda, woulda, coulda world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They operate based on beliefs that they have that might not be true for them.
Right.
And then they try to fulfill them.
Right. And it may be your parents' perception or your siblings or your friends or something like that. And, I think about all those people that, whether it's in school or moving on to college or whatever, that, they are trying to fulfill everyone else's dream rather than their own. Both of my children, I very much encourage them to follow their path, to have their opinions, to express it. And my son just graduated from OU as an industrial engineer. My daughter just graduated high school, and she's going to head to the University of Arkansas to study hospitality and tourism management, and completely, different ends of the spectrum. One's more analytical, one's more free-spirited, but they both have that free will choice to be happy, to follow their passions. I could have my opinions, and I've shared them, of course, but in the same sense, I'm like, but do what makes you happy.
And I think that's really important for people to do that. But there's so much, what's the word I want to use? Negativity. If somebody wants to be an artist or a musician, the classic examples, there's so much pressure for them to do something that is useful and productive.
Yeah. Well, I have the perfect example because my son, his second semester of college, he went to work at a car dealership selling cars. And all I could think of was, oh no, because I have the perception of what a car salesman is. You know, that's one of an experience that I never enjoy is going to buy a vehicle. And all I could think of is, oh, my son's selling cars. And he's now managing a dealership. And his industrial engineer degree is all about business management and such. But, you know, I shared, you know, Cody, oh my goodness, you know, you're doing this and you're brilliant and this and that. But I said, but ultimately it's your choice. He goes, Mom, I'm not just a salesman. Okay. I'm going to be a business owner. And I said, okay, I got that. You do whatever makes you happy. But it's, you know, the perception that we have, and we can apply this to work or employment or to anything, any circumstances. But we automatically have this energy feeling of the perception or the connotation. That's why I don't like the word psychic, because I think of gypsy fortune teller, but I know that's not the case.
I have come to terms. I tell people that I came out of my psychic closet when I lived in Washington. You know, it's actually people in Texas that really have a much harder time with it than I have a hard time with it. It's just, to me, it's just easier.
Well, it means of the soul. I mean, so it's truly a beautiful word and everything else. And, you know, I'm stepping into it, but at this point I prefer the energy of the word intuitive. And then I have to explain, well, what does that mean? And is it really psychic? So, you know, it would be just easier to say I'm psychic, period.
Yep. Pretty much. But, you know, and actually I have turned around and started using the intuitive word here in the South because people can hear it.
Yes.
Better.
It's how they receive it, isn't it? Yeah.
You know, where in other parts of the country, it's not so ugly. But, you know, but one of the things that we were talking about was labels. You know, how do you think that labels limit people? Well,
I just definitely feel, first of all, that, you know, a label is a label, of course. It's a name, it's a description, an adjective. But if we focus too much energy on the label itself, I feel like it can be very restrictive. You know, so that is all that is. And, you know, sometimes we don't mean to attach those labels. And, you know, once again, they're not good or bad, but I just feel even when I'm looking at the linear aspect of time, because so many people want to know when something going to happen. And, you know, I can see and pick up what I'm feeling, but I said, but first of all, let's go ahead and let go of the label, let go of the linear aspect of time, and just be in that flow of allowance in the here and now. And trust that it's already happening. It's already unfolding. And so those labels are just going to restrict it or inhibit it, as well as that time aspect.
That's an interesting idea.
I mean, and, you know, even I'm thinking as we're talking labels is, you know, many kids being labeled with the ADHD or autism or things like that. And, you know, I have no doubt that they're diagnoses, but if we choose to consciously label them, then to me, we're continuing to feed that behavior with that energy. And so I think that situations like that, it's really important. And that's just what came into my awareness to acknowledge.
Well, and I think for young people, getting a label is awful.
Yes.
You know, because I mean, in some situations, you know, if there is truly a disability happening, you know, they can get a certain amount of benefits that they actually really need. You know what I mean? So, but then there are people that are borderline, you know, and then you have to think, well, who's actually making the assessment, and should I trust them at all?
Right. And, you know, like I said, I think it's fine, you know, if we say it as a diagnosis and things like that, especially to receive benefits and such. But in the same sense, if we shift it and use it as an excuse for behavior, then that's going to be a different vibration.
Oh, exactly. You mean so that they can get away with not do
Yes.
something or
Yes.
do something.
So that's where it's limiting, because I want to acknowledge a label's not good or bad, but how we perceive it makes it so.
Mm-hmm. Interesting idea. I never thought of people using their label as an excuse, but I think about it just for 1 microsecond. You're right, they do.
And I don't know that they do it consciously. I feel like that's important to acknowledge too. I think a lot of it is subconscious behavior. But once again, words are energy. And I just feel that, once again, that can be limiting them. Definitely.
It just makes me wonder if there's the label, or would they just go ahead and use, just find something else. Oh, it was my past life, because they just don't even want to deal with, the whole situation in the first place, and it just becomes a much more passive aggressive way of not dealing with it.
Yeah, and I think that those people, of course, that would do that, they will come up with anything in order to not take responsibility on that soul level.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, based on your work, how important is it to take responsibility for who you are and what you do?
Well, I feel like, it's really important. And I will tell you that it can be very challenging to even initially begin to go there to accept responsibility. Because the thing is going back to what we were saying earlier, Dr. Rita, about, choosing our parents before we incarnated here. I mean, most people would say, what was I thinking? But if we can just say, I know that I chose my parents to have the experiences I had, and our human mind cannot grasp it fully, but once we're able to me, that's part of that ascension process. And to me, anytime I use ascension, that's just about raising our vibration. That's about growing, evolving. It doesn't necessarily mean becoming an ascended master, an enlightened being, anything like that, but we're becoming more aware. And in turn, becoming more aware, we're more aware of the choices that we make, of our intention behind why we do what we do, of the words that we use, the energy that we put forth, and everything else.
Any thoughts on what the karmic part to that is?
Well, I go back to any time we have experiences or individuals that tend to repeat themselves over and over and over again. I mean, they can be a life lesson for this lifetime, or they can be karma that we're resolving from a past life. And so I don't feel the need to analyze that to get to the root of it per se, but I do some work where if people are having issues, then I will look and energetically pick up if I'm seeing something into a past life in regards to that.
And so if you're not seeing something, how confrontational are you in your sessions, Shelly?
Well, the funny thing is, Dr. Rita, is I pretty much tell it like it is, and I will use the preface it, and I'm saying this with love. But as I do a lot of readings, especially like at the spirit fairs, I did one over the weekend in Oklahoma City, and when I do a lot of readings in a row, I have to say the filter of what I'm saying decreases. So I'm just really saying it like it is. And I'm still coming from a place of love because that's my intention, but I can be tough at times. And I've had even clients coming for the personal growth sessions, and I had to be very strong and firm in what I was picking up and saying to them. But a lot of it was their energy was already focused in the present, 3 months away, rather than now, in the here and now. And they were getting worked up on something that probably wasn't even going to happen, but there was a possibility of it happening.
Yeah, that always makes me laugh. I mean, not that I ever do that. Ever.
Yes. I mean, I definitely approach everyone where they're at in that moment. And I'm not judging. I'm in a flow of allowance, honoring people where they're at. To me, there is no question that is should not be asked, or as some people say, I know this is a stupid question. I don't feel like any question's stupid. I feel like, I may not have the answers, but I will definitely give my opinion if you ask me of that situation. But I think a lot of it is just each one of us feeling empowered and confident enough to share our experiences with one another on this journey, because we're all having our own journey into consciousness, if we choose to.
And if we don't choose to, then what happens?
Well, sometimes it can be that bumpy road, as we were saying earlier, our guide's giving us that proverbial whack with a 2x4, because sometimes the road can feel very smooth and easy and comfortable. And if we're not progressing, I feel as our soul intended, sometimes things can get a little bumpy and rocky and uncomfortable, and we have those growing pains. But we can be in that flow of allowance or resistance. And when we're in allowance, it's a little bit easier. It doesn't mean it's more comfortable, but it's a little more easier than if we're resisting everything.
So what about, excuse me. So what about the people who it just seems like their life is so easy?
Yeah, we kind of look at that and say, wow, what karma did they burn off? And so we can go back to the opposite end of the spectrum with karma. But the thing is we may perceive it to be easy, but in reality, they very well could have these enormous challenges, and they could be what they would deem struggle mode. And, what we perceive is actually an illusion of what is really happening. So unless we're in that person's shoes having their experience, we really have no idea what their life is all about. They could just be very good at faking it.
Or they just have a marveled life, and
that's
just
true.
Have to be in awe.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there's all different possibilities for sure.
I just want one of them. Can I have one of them?
Sure. Maybe not this lifetime, maybe next time, but there's always that possibility, right?
Yeah.
What'd you sign up for?
I don't freaking know, but
No.
I must have been like high or something. I don't know.
Well, you're in an amazing house now, and obviously having those deja vu moments like you did earlier today. So, this will be interesting to see what unfolds with experiences there.
It's going to be, they keep showing me all of this great stuff. I just have to get the house pulled together. And I'm like, okay, I've learned to listen, because I have a dent in my head from that 2x4.
Mm-hmm.
No comments in the chat room. Thank you very much. Because I'm sure they will say something. One of the things that you talk about in your book is about making conscious connections.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, to me, I use that term anytime people come into our awareness that resonates with us and we're consciously choosing to connect with them. This connection may be for a very short while. It could be long term. It could lead to, even as we're doing now, a radio show together. And the thing is I'm very aware of people who come into my awareness. And so that's all about being conscious about those connections.
And so how would somebody apply something like that?
Well, I think
it's a term that I have not really heard.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is I have a couple of friends who kind of cackle when I use that term, but now they're saying, I see what you mean, and this may be a couple years later, but they're like, I see what you mean about the conscious connections. I said, I'm fully conscious making these connections with people. And what I feel like is, in order to do it for yourself, bring your energy to this present moment in the here and now and be aware of who comes into your awareness. If you have an introduction, and this could be as simple as someone making a friend request to you, or someone suggesting a friend to you on Facebook, or being introduced to someone at a conference, or, someone speaking to you on the telephone, or things like that. I mean, this weekend I did the Spirit Fair, and I was we have to do circle and hold hands prior to the fair starting and setting the intentions for the day and things like that. And so the lady next to me, I could feel the energy between us, and we're done, and, we're talking, and we just like hit it off. And she came to me for a reading, and then I was interested in the products they had. And then we went to dinner that night, and I feel like I've known her forever, and we've just known each other a few days. And so, I was in the right place at the right time to hold her hand during circle, and had everything not happened like that, we may not be where we are in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And the funny thing was, is she was sweating. It was a little warm in there, and she's like, something about the air. And I pretty much said, don't gripe, except I used an expletive in the place. And I said, it'll cool down, but she's really aware of the air conditioning in here. That it's faulty air conditioner. I'm just telling you, don't gripe. But that's not the word I said. And then we laughed, and, that told it like it was.
Mm-hmm.
So.
See, I would be happy. Oh,
yeah. Yes.
Freezing.
Yes, it was not freezing for sure.
See, I like not freezing. But it sounds like that happens to us all the time, and we just don't recognize it.
Exactly. Most people, just are not in that present moment where they can fully make that connection. And once again, this is my perception of what that involves.
In your experience, how has making these conscious connections benefited you?
Well, I have been very blessed and grateful, to have my life enriched with people coming into my awareness. And, I have to go back to one of our mutual friends, Larry Flaxman. He was a guest on my radio show a couple years ago, and then I saw him at Through the Veil, and he was just coming by my table, and I said, hey, I know you. And he's like, you do? And I said, yeah, I'm Shelly. You were on my show. He's like, oh, hi, Shelly. And, then we started talking and doing that. So, once again, it's putting a face with a name, with a voice. And so I just, reflect back on that moment, because he was just kind of passing by, and I'm like, I know you. And he's giving me the look like, how do you know me and who are you? And then I introduce myself. So, I know that you have done a lot of conferences with Larry, so his energy and how he is and such. But, yeah, that happens a lot. And I think a lot of what it involves too is we have to be courageous enough to introduce ourselves, to go up to someone and stick your hand out and say, hi, my name is, and who are you, or whatever, because most people sit around observing and watching everybody else, wanting to talk to someone, but they don't have the courage to go up and actually make the introduction themselves.
Well, and if it's somebody really cool, it's like,
yeah, of course. I mean, to me, it's always important to be respectful of people's boundaries, but most people are very approachable, but being aware of boundaries. And, if somebody's eating dinner, I don't encourage you to just go up and invade their space. But if they're in an area, just wait and take that moment then to just extend your hand and introduce yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a time and a place for everything.
There is.
And, doing that kind of thing, there's nothing worse than having people get on your face when you're trying to have dinner or have some proper time.
Yeah, and I'm going back, sometimes the bathroom's not the most appropriate place either to make those introductions. So, being conscious of your surroundings, what you're doing, the intention behind it is key to making those conscious connections.
Has that happened to you, my dear?
Yes. There's nothing worse than somebody, in the women's bathroom with all the stalls trying to carry on a conversation under the stall, So I've not approached anyone, but I've been approached. So it's an awkward moment.
Okay. There's one thing when you're washing your hands.
I know.
That's a totally, okay.
You know what I'm talking about. So
I do, but I thank God have not real. Oh, well, I can't say that I haven't had that happen. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Bathroom talk.
Yes, you're keeping it clean for the most part.
Yeah. Just
refocus, right?
Yeah. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you, and this is a great question. We were talking at the very beginning of the show about you opening up and, the impact that it was having on your family life. But what was it like for you? Because there are so many people. I mean, I have been this way since I was a kid, and I did get training. But after I went to Berkeley Psychic Institute, and after being in their program for 3 weeks, it was like, oh, that's what you want us to do? And so it got honed, but it wasn't really training, if that makes sense. But what was it like for you to have yourself more opened up? Because I do believe we all have psychic abilities.
Of course.
I don't want to say at an older age, because I was 30 when I went to Berkeley.
Yeah. I definitely recognize that I've always known things. I just didn't have someone to talk to, very sensitive. So, I pick up things energetically. And as I began opening up consciously, I deem my spiritual wake up was in 2008. When I had a reading with, as I indicated before, the person who became my Reiki master. But I then began developing it. So I have studied mediumship with Lisa Williams and John Holland and James Van Praagh and Tony Stockwell. And with each of those experiences, and even working with my guides, working with spirit regularly, I'm pretty amazed and tuned in. I don't walk around all the time just consciously reading people, because to me that's an invasion of space. But in my own environment, I pick up things, I'm tuned in, and my family is becoming more acclimated to receiving the information that I come through. And just to give a short quick example that's funny, my daughter had texted me, said, I have a surprise for you. And I immediately got the hit in my head. Okay, she baked a zucchini cake. So I sent back, you baked a zucchini bag. And she's like, no. And I said, and she sent back, okay, I guess I can't fool you. You're psychic. So it's just a little simple thing, but I'm very tapped in, and I choose to express it with them. And so in other words, they know, mom's tuned in, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah, I would tell my kids when they were young, it's like, because they would do something and they'd inevitably get busted. And it's like,
right.
Dude, you shouldn't think about lying to a psychic. It just doesn't work. They're like, ooh.
Yeah, I remember my son, he's 22 now, but so many experiences when I would say something to him and I said, now, Cody, are you sure that's what you're going to do? And he's like, Mom. And I said, Cody, because I'm seeing that this is actually what your plans are. And he's like, okay. And I'm just like, he's a good kid, but in the same sense, I knew that what he was conveying to me was not always what he was actually going to do.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And then sometimes it just can become interesting. I think my kids would have liked it better, if
had a normal mom.
No abilities at all.
Yeah, normal.
Sorry, busted. Sorry. But then again, they
chose you.
Well, they're my stepkids, but they're my boys. But have your kids started to, I don't want to show signs of an ability themselves, but have
they both are very gifted. My son's just very skeptical because he's operating on the engineer brain, very analytical, wants answers and proof for everything. But he reads people and he's very sensitive. And, if we go back with the labels, I would definitely label him as an indigo, very strong indigo. And on the other hand, my daughter's very much a free spirit, very tuned in. We're very telepathic between us, and I would label her with a crystal. So if you're reference like Doreen Virtue's books and stuff, but, even acknowledging you indicated your children are stepchildren, I still have to look at this as, the soul agreement of, they still chose you. Every circumstance came together so that you would still be their mom.
For them. No,
yes.
They're great kids. But, Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, you know, and after a while, I mean, because I would sit there and say to them, well, 'cause they would come home and go, you know, this weird coincidence happened at school today. And they tell, and I'm like, well, maybe you were having a psychic moment.
Uh-huh.
And so then, you know, after doing that for a while, one of them came home and he was all excited. I had a psychic moment at school today.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And see, I think,
so
you know, we laugh about it, but we're actually empowering them to step into that power of awareness.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think, you know, acknowledging and validating it
Mm-hmm.
you know, allows it to be there fully for them.
I agree.
So
we're helping the new generations coming up. And to me, they're a lot more open than, you know, my generation, previous generations. Even though you may be gifted growing up, I feel, going back to what we were saying about the media and that portrayal of whether we would perceive it as, you know, good or bad. And regardless, it's bringing an awareness to people of the opportunities, of the gifts, of heightening that awareness, of paying attention, of tuning in, of working with that intuitiveness.
Oh, and I agree. I mean, because there's been so many shows that have come out and demystified, even though the information isn't 100% accurate.
Mm-hmm.
That's my comment. At least opens the door that it's okay.
Yes.
You know, it's not a bad thing. And I like that part.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. And, you know, this is once again an opportunity for practice discernment.
Mm-hmm. You know, because it's not, you know, it's something that we all have. And
it is.
Can't be taken away. So, anyway, moving on.
I agree.
Okay, so there was a question that was in the chat room, but I'm going to ask this question, then we'll follow up with his question if I can find it. So I think it was Bill that had posted the dream question. If you want to repost, I'm up to you. And so one of the things you share in your book are some of your journal entries. Why is it important to journal?
Yeah, I'm laughing because some of the journaling I shared were my dream and my visions and things like that. And I'm sure people really thought I was a weirdo. But to me, journaling, writing things down, helps to get it out of your consciousness, out of your thoughts, so that you're actually putting it down. And then you've got a tool then that you can go back and look at and see how you come. And, you know, some people like to do the dream interpretation and symbology. I like referencing the angel numbers. Anytime we see repetitive numbers or any numbers that come into our awareness, and look at Doreen Virtue's Angel Numbers 101. And I also enjoy referencing Ted Andrews' Animal Speak book. So anytime animals come into my awareness, or birds or insects, whether they be actually or in my dream state, I definitely see them as a message.
And so do you find that it helps to crystallize what's going on in your mind?
I think so. I mean, in just last week, I went for a walk. This was last Tuesday, and I waited until about 8:30. So dusk was starting to set in, and I was getting eaten up by mosquitoes. And I was like, oh, okay, here's a sign. I'm going to discard, this feeling. Something's eating at me. So I want to brush that off. And then immediately a deer is just right there, and it's making sound. So, rather than just being silent, I heard it and I saw it. And then on the way back in that same area, lots of fireflies. So I immediately came and referenced the book to see what each one of those meant, and read the messages in that order too. And so the mosquitoes had to do with self-esteem and self-worth. And then the deer, I believe, was all about adventures coming, and the fireflies had to do with inspiration, which exactly was what I was feeling. And so then I had this experience, and that's when I talked to my guide. So my meditation is actually going for a walk, being fully awake, aware, looking around, and letting whatever come into my awareness at that time.
So what are mosquitoes about?
The mosquitoes, and I don't have the book in front of me, but a lot of it had to do with self-esteem or self-worth and being eaten at. And this could also be other people's perception of you. So what's eating at you?
Okay, I don't like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a lot of mosquitoes at this time of year, don't we? And I feel like, it's not good or bad, so we don't need to put a label to it. But I feel like, if we're aware something's biting us, eating us, sucking the blood from us, can we apply this to areas of our life or people in our life? And then what are we going to do? Are we going to smack it? Are we going to, let them continue to eat us or what?
I'll have to think about that one. Okay, so... But see, that's not the question, but I'll ask it anyway. So this is from Bill in New York. But I think, and I'm just going to make this comment to the chat room, there was a question about dreams, and I wanted to ask that question now. So if you can scroll back and repost it for me, I'd really appreciate it. But this is from Bill in New York. Have you ever felt a conscious connection to Mother Earth and its life essence?
Of course. Yes, I love spending time outdoors, and that to me is grounding energy and revitalizing energy at the same time. So I was outdoors a couple hours today. Need to get in my flower beds and pull the grass out of it, but I just haven't felt like it. So I know that grass will still be there for me to do another day. Or not.
Or not.
Yes, it's still growing.
I'm not seeing the dream question. It's going back way too far for me. Okay, he's going to go find it.
Cool.
And it's interesting because it seems like society today, I mean, you're in Oklahoma, and so there's a lot of very rural areas. But society today is clamoring into the cities and living in these concrete jungles where there is no nature, and it just enhances, in my opinion, our disconnect from the rest of the world, from the natural world.
Right. Yeah, I think once again it's important to, bring our awareness to the moment, because everyone's perception is going to be different. But the more that we don't get caught up in the day-to-day life or the rush or the stress or anything like that, and just allow ourselves to be at peace, because how we feel internally, we can allow it to affect our external circumstances. Being in nature is a beautiful way, to feel that peace. And if we can't be there, we can at least be there in our mind in meditation, or we can allow, what's happening around us to affect our internal state of being. And if there's stress, like we discussed earlier in the show, that can affect us, of course, physically, mentally, emotionally speaking.
Okay, he found the question. And so he wanted to know what your thoughts on meditation and dreams to reach a deep, I'm going to say deep state of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love to astral travel. I mean, every night my head hits the pillow, I'm out. And I practice Reiki, so I clear the room, protect the room, so I feel safe. I say I seal the room and let nothing but the white light in. But I consciously choose to do traveling, have very vivid experiences. And, some may perceive that to be an alternate reality, or just simply a dream state. But what I really love about that opportunity is, even like during the day, I was guided just to lay down. I ended up laying down for about 30 minutes. Don't really feel like I fell asleep. Feel like it was more of a meditative type experience, but it was very relaxing. And in the same sense, I had a lot of information coming through from my guides during that short time span.
So anything really juicy and interesting?
Today it was just about relaxing and my intentions. I did not originally plan to take a nap, but I have 3 Dachshunds, and I they all headed in the bedroom. I'm like, am I supposed to take a nap? And they all jumped on the bed. And I said, okay. So I crawled in and then just had lots of energy. I like to see the energy, to feel the energy, but it was just recognizing now that it was a time for me to just be, to not do, to just be. And in that same sense, I rested and I looked at the clock and literally 25 minutes passed. And I was like, oh, that's all I needed. I just need a reset.
Cool. So we're getting close toward the end, and I was hoping to have a little more time for this, but we don't. I never do. If someone is looking to transform themselves or their lives, if you were going to give them one step that they could incorporate into their lives, what would that be?
Definitely a reiteration of what I've been talking about, being in the here and now, to consciously focus your energy in this present moment, clear your mind, open your heart, allow yourself to honor those emotions of any regret or coulda, woulda, shouldas that you had about choices that you made or things that you didn't do, and clear that energy out so that it's not affecting your current state of being. And in the same sense, have plans and future plans and goals and aspirations and things you want to do, but don't focus your energy there. Have it marked on the calendar, but bring your energy back to this present moment, because when you're in the moment, you're in the flow of creation, and that's how you manifest.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of put it back to you again. Maybe in a little more tangible way, pragmatic way of saying that.
Okay. So to make it more simple, take a moment, spend some time in reflection, allow yourself to let go of the mind clutter, what's running through your mind, acknowledge it so that you can clear it out, and then focus on, it's almost 9 o'clock here, Central Standard Time Zone, be here at 9 o'clock. Don't think about what you have to do tomorrow or think about what you should have done today. Get your energy in this moment, in the here and now.
And that doesn't mean like with a beer, right?
Well, that's free will choice. Of course you can have a beer.
If someone's having a hard time finding that place, would journaling be something good for them to do, or some other yoga type activity?
Anything that you feel is good for you. To me, if someone suggests it to you, then tap into yourself and say, I don't know if it really resonates with me. But, my ritual at night when I start shutting down my energy and preparing myself to go to the dream state, I like to have a little bit of dessert, whatever it may be. And tonight it's going to be some homemade blackberry cobbler with some bluebell ice cream. But take a bath, relax, turn off the computers, turn off the phone, and, just get myself into that relaxed state in this moment. But for each person, they may have a preference of that. But to me, I feel like constantly tuning down the energy, closing down. A lot of people that have insomnia, that can't sleep and things like that, to me, it's because you still have a lot of things running through your mind, that you're not able to close down the day and then start fresh. And so to me, I every night shut off my computer. Some people leave it on all the time, but I shut it off. And then in the morning, I turn it back on. I don't know if some people say that's not good on it, but I've always done that. So that's what I'll continue to do. But the point being is, you're consciously turning it off, ending the day, closing down so that you can begin fresh tomorrow.
And I agree with you about the people with insomnia. Their brain, their 6 chakras are always on overdrive.
Yeah.
And, helping them to manage it and calm it down is, kind of a task.
Mm-hmm. I used to suffer from insomnia, and suffering's the only way to describe it, in my opinion, because it's miserable. If you can't sleep or you are awakened during the night, and, to me, anytime I get awoken between 2 and 4 o'clock, Spirit probably has a message. But ever since I've consciously been in the here and now, clearing out that mind clutter, I don't have any trouble sleeping. And I can function on a few hours if I need to, but most of the time I get a very satisfying 8 to 9 hours of sleep at night.
But just think
it's
about
choice.
how much work you could get done if
you didn't sleep. I know. But physically speaking, for our physical health, we require sleep. I think that's probably something we require even more so than, nutrition in most aspects, because we have to have that downtime.
This is true. And I think that the concept, I don't know if it's becoming a bigger issue, but it really is a big issue. Demographically speaking.
Well, and a lot of people too are so adamant about not taking a nap. They're exhausted and they just are refusing to take a nap. And I'm like, if you're tired, just lay down. I mean, to me, a 10, 20, 30-minute power nap, you're going to have more energy to proceed with the rest of the projects or tasks that you have assigned either to yourself or others have assigned to you so that you can get accomplished. But, sometimes we're just stubborn as humans that we don't want to do it.
That's because we resist everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So rather than resisting, we move back to that energy of allowance. There's resistance or allowance, and one feels a lot more comfortable.
But see, I like that, and that.
Oh, I do it too.
Simple too. But I mean, but we could sit there and go to ourselves on our little internal meter. In this moment, am I resisting or am I accepting? If we're hitting a question and really break it down to a very simple response.
Feeling. Yeah. I mean, and if we just tap into what we're feeling, I mean, a good thing that I like to encourage people to do, especially in regards to if they're making a choice or they have a question they want to answer, just say, is it right for me right now? And tap into that emotion in that moment. Now, you're going to know immediately if it feels good to proceed or not. And then that's how you proceed. And if it doesn't feel good, then I encourage you not to go forward with it, because probably something may transpire that is not good from your perception.
So everyone needs to check in. Shelly, I'm looking at the time, so we are going to wrap.
Awesome.
So your book, Journey into Consciousness, I'm assuming Amazon, all the regular outlets?
Exactly. Ebook and paperback. I also have 28 Days to a New You and Connect to the You Within. But Journey is my story, provides you tips and tools for your journey along the way as well.
And you said you had a radio show, but
it's on hiatus right now. I've done it for 3.5 years, and literally 2 weeks ago I put it on hiatus until further notice. But I already have several guests that have agreed to join me. They just haven't scheduled a date. So maybe it's just a summer hiatus.
Well, you'll have to have me on.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll have conversation and see what we talk about.
I like talking. Not that you could.
I do too. Well, it's nice when it's easy to talk and converse. And I have to say, Dr. Rita, thank you for this opportunity to share conversation with you. And I just absolutely appreciate it immensely. And I've enjoyed the 2 hours. It doesn't seem like that long, but looking at the clock, we can see we've done it for that long.
We have, and pretty soon I'll have Joe sending me little notes going, music, with the big hook,
Yes.
Well, then I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for coming on. And, as I tell guests that any new books come out or whatever, drop me a note. We'll have you back.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And maybe I'll see you at a show. It could happen.
Maybe so. Absolutely.
Okay. You have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. That's Shelly Wilson. Her webpage is shellyrwilson.com. Her book is Journey into Consciousness. Next week, we are going to be speaking to Ahmed Osman about the lost city of the Exodus. So until next week, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy Radio.
Join host Dr. Rita Louise each week at this time for Just Energy Radio. Point your browser